It set the stage in the very beginning, how traumatic it can be when they're on the rooftop, and he talks about this experience he had at work, and then Alyssa, his sister, explains it later. But CarlLa, is there a reason that abuser abuses important?
I'm going to do a short, fast no. We all have trauma in our lives. We have mental illness, we have substance abuse, we have addiction. But domestic violence is really very different. And what I would call to your attention is this. Who does he abuse? Does he get mad when his boss doesn't give him the best shift or the promotion or the raise? No, it doesn't whack him. Does he rape the woman at ShopRite because he just doesn't like the way she bags his groceries? These are people who know how to behave, because they do it with everybody else. So, Patti, I would echo what Patti said. It's never the victim's fault. A victim will do what I call the dance. I'll be as pretty as I can. I'll cook as best I can. I'll make love as best I can. And they just are whirling around in this effort to just meet the expectations, when the reality is there is nothing good enough. They're never good enough. And the abuse is never their fault. And it's not about someone losing control. It's not about someone, she pushed his buttons, she yanked his chain. No, this is someone who has this incredible, insatiable need to get and maintain control. And he can do it with everybody else. So he could do it with her if he really wanted to.
Thanks. Stacey, right over to you. Lily was assaulted by Ryle 3 times. Legally, in the state of New York, because every state is different, could she have gone to the police for each one? The hospital? What were her options?
Sure. So, as we saw in the movie, Ryle assaulted Lily 3 times. And just to recap it for you, because I know when I first saw the movie the other day, you see it through her eyes and you're thinking, oh, wow, it's an accident. He didn't mean it. But I think by the end of the movie, we saw what really happened. And the first time, he hit her in the face after she burned food in the oven. And the second time, after he found Atlas's business card in her phone, he pushed her down the stairs and she, causing her to be unconscious. And the third time, when Ryle made Lily read Atlas's restaurant review, he pinned her down, forcibly kissed her, even after she kept saying no. And while we don't see it completely, I think the movie leads us to believe that he raped her. So yes, under New York law, for each and every one of those incidents, Lily could report it to the police. And there's a whole host of charges that he could be charged with, ranging from assault, menacing, harassment, even up to attempted murder or rape. And if he was arrested, if Ryle was arrested and the judge in the criminal case would issue an order of protection on her behalf to keep him away from her. But most of the clients that come into my office don't want to report it to the police. And there's a whole host of reasons why they don't want to. Sometimes it's love, fear, shame. Sometimes it's distrust in the legal system, the law enforcement. Sometimes it's immigration, financial, many different reasons why when victims and clients don't want to report to the police. But they have other options. And when they come into our office, that's what we do. We tell them what their options are. We give them information and we educate them so they can make the choice. In New York, if Lily didn't want to go to the police, she could go to family court and she can petition on her own for an order of protection to keep him away from her. Of course, she can go to the hospital, as you saw she did after the last incident. And what I would say, though, is that most victims who do seek medical treatment often don't tell hospital personnel and doctors what really happened. You'll often find in medical records that they said, I fell, I tripped, it was an accident. And it's the same reasons why they don't go to the police. They love them, or they're afraid of them. They're afraid of retaliation. This could make it worse if I tell. Or he could lose his job, and I could be homeless or no place to go with my kids. So these are really difficult choices, but I think what I would want all you to know is when someone comes to our office, we give them the information. They don't know how the system works, so we explain it to them, and we tell them what their options are. But it's up to them to make the choice. We don't tell them what to do. We empower them so they can make their own decisions.
Okay, we're going to stick with you for a second, Stacey. When Atlas takes Lily to the hospital, the nurse offers her a rape kit. I imagine to at least some of you, maybe most of you, this came as a surprise. Can you explain marital rape?
Yes, so marital rape is when one spouse forces another to sexual activity without their consent. And it is a crime in New York to force a spouse to have sex. And I just learned the other day from CarlLa that actually it wasn't a crime in New York until 1984. And it became a crime nationwide not until 1993. So actually, within at least all of our lifetimes, at one point, a husband could rape his wife. So fortunately now that's not the case, and marital rape is taken just as seriously as any other sexual assault. And a spouse who commits rape on their partner can be arrested and charged and prosecuted for rape and other sexual crimes. In the movie, you saw a nurse ask Lily if she wanted a SANE test. And what SANE stands for is a sexual assault nurse examiner. And a sexual assault nurse examiner is a registered nurse who's been trained to treat sexual assault victims. So I think the movie did highlight in that case that they take it seriously. They knew that she was married, but they offered her that type of examination. And within that type of examination, the SANE will collect evidence, DNA evidence, hair fibers, and document any injuries or marks on the victim. You don't have to report it to the police in order to have a SANE exam done. The evidence will be preserved, so if a victim chooses to later go to the police or file any legal charges, it will be available for when that time, if it ever comes.
All right, quick show of hands. How many of you watching this movie or having read the book was wondering why Lily didn't leave after the first or second time he hit her? Nobody. Everybody thought it was okay that she stayed?
Or perhaps understandable.
So if you thought after the first time, why didn't she leave him, or second time? Raise your hand. 1, 2.
It's more complicated than that.
Right, it is more complicated than that. And statistics show that it takes an average of 7 times for a victim to really leave their abuser. They go back, they leave, they go back. Why is that?
2 points I want to make. There are so many barriers, and over 95% of domestic violence victims are subjected not only to physical and sexual assault, as we saw in this movie, but unlike Lily, who had a career, who had a business, many victims do not. So that's the one thing that I want to say. But the more important thing is, leaving does not equate to safety. You're sitting there and you're probably going, well, why wouldn't it? But it doesn't. In 1996 or 97, then Governor Patti had a lethality review of all domestic violence murders in New York State. I read it shortly after getting to Hope Store, well, actually, Northern Westchester Shelter at that time. And what it said in that report is that about 74.6 or 76.4% of the women who had been murdered in domestic violence had left or announced a serious intention to do so. so that at Hope Store, all of us working with a new client will do a danger assessment with a new victim so that we can help that person with no promises, because things can escalate quickly, who is most at risk. So leaving is the most dangerous time. Having a weapon in the home is the most dangerous thing. Having a stepchild that's not his stepchild, not his child, being unemployed or having vastly reduced economics.
I'm gonna add to that.
I
will.
There are
Yeah.
19 documented risk factors.
Yeah, but I'm gonna peel it back just a little bit. That's what we know now because of the research and all the cases and everything that's been developed. But on a basic level, there's some serious palpable fear, right? It takes 7 times, 7 tries on average because it is complicated. You might have children, as CarlLa mentioned, you might be financially dependent. You might not have worked in years. There is things that have occurred in your lifetime in this relationship that cause you to make decisions that put you in a situation where you no longer have friends or family or colleagues. You become isolated because the abuser sows the seeds of doubt in your mind. They consistently repeat the same narrative. They consistently chip you away to the point where you think he's the only one, or she, the only person that you can depend on. And so you carry that fear with you, and you have no confidence and no resources. So who's left to lean on? You really have to slowly rebuild your self-confidence yourself, and hopefully find an agency that can provide you with the help and support needed.
Stacey said something that I would echo about how if you come to Hope Store, we're not going to tell you what to do, because we understand that all of your autonomy has been stripped away, and we don't replace that power and control with our power and control. We work so that the survivor themselves empowers themselves to become the person that they used to be before this happened.
Patti. So at first, Lily doesn't admit she's been abused, right? She says it was an accident. But later, she does talk about it. How difficult is it for a victim to admit that they've been abused?
Well, I think the word we should actually use is not admit. It should be acknowledge. Because a victim of abuse is living in an untenable and often very dangerous situation. Naturally, to survive this on a daily basis, they've developed skills. One of these skills is denial. Denial that you're a victim of abuse. Denial that you're in a dangerous situation. Denial that the person that you love, that you married, that you had children with, is hurting you. And so it's not really admitting, it's more about coping mechanisms. And denial is one of those coping mechanisms. It becomes extremely difficult, and that's why conversations like the ones we're having today are critical. Because the strength of the abuser and the abuse lies in the secrets that are kept for them.
I would also add that there are really very real threats that a woman also has to face. And I know from my own personal family experience, I was about 50 years old before I got around to asking my mother without judgment. I truly wasn't questioning her decision, but I wanted to know, why weren't you able to leave this man? What kept you? And her answer was, well, I didn't know if he would divorce me, and back in the 50s and 60s of the last century, get custody, which was a very real fear, or if he would kill you and bury you and I wouldn't even know where to visit your grave. So I was like, oh. And reached for my Pinot Grigio because I had my feet up on the couch, you know, and the wine on the coffee table, and I had actually been doing this work. And yet, these are the very real fears that people face. And children are vulnerable. If you check the newspapers going back, we know about the Friedlander family. We know about the ones that Patti mentioned earlier. They're very real fears.
Similarly, Patti, how common is it for an abuser to actually admit to their partner that they were abusive?
They don't. That's
Some
easy.
short
That's
answers.
a short answer.
Yeah,
They
very
don't.
short answers.
So I think you see in the movie with regard to the apologies, right? The apologies that happen. They're a big part of the abuse. They're part of the cycle of abuse. But they're really, they're used to further the control that they have over the person. They apologize with qualifiers, right? It wouldn't have, I'm sorry that this happened, but it wouldn't have happened if you didn't trip and fall down the stairs by yourself. Not that if I pushed you, you tripped, you got in the way. I burned my hand, you got in the way of it when I pulled it away. It wasn't that I swung at you. Their apologies are about controlling the narrative, shifting the blame, making excuses, playing down the actual details.
I just want to add to that in the legal context. As a former prosecutor, prosecuting a domestic violence offender is so difficult. They never want to take responsibility. They will refuse a plea offer time and time again, just trying to drag out that case as long as possible so that ultimately, and what happens in many criminal prosecutions, a victim will just, say to the district attorney, I just can't, participate in this case anymore. They just, they wait them out. They just wait them out. And now, doing the civil work, it's the same thing in custody cases and in divorce cases. You make an agreement, and then at the last minute, they'll say, nope, I'm not doing it, just dragging it out. So they really will refuse to take responsibility for their actions, and they do not admit they did anything wrong.
We have just about 10 more minutes, and then we're all gonna head out. Patti, there was a very powerful scene near the end of the movie when Lily is talking to Alyssa and telling her what happened with Ryle. And Alyssa responds first as a sister, but then she responds as a best friend. And I thought that was a really incredible part of the story, the way she responded. Does that mimic real life?
Here's another short answer.
Yeah.
It was a powerful scene for a movie, right? And I honestly do hope that victims of abuse do have someone they can rely on, a confidant, a friend. I know I did. But it is very, very risky, especially early on, to presume that the abuser's family or a friend of the abuser is going to be supportive to the victim. You have no idea if they're going to buckle under their control of the abuser or the abuser's harassment. And in real life, there would be a very strong possibility that anything Lily shared with Alyssa, his sister, could make its way back to Ryle and be used against her. So what seems like a supportive relationship can perhaps inadvertently put the victim in much more danger. The scene definitely doesn't mimic real life, and this is one instance where one has to be really careful and weigh the risks.
And it's not just with friends. we've learned the hard way, doing this work for many years, that couples counseling, for example, is so contraindicated in relationships that are fraught with domestic violence, because the victim would go in thinking, oh, he wants to change, he wants to help, he said he's sorry, he even cried, and then she pulls, just pours out her heart, and then he goes home and says things like, you'll never talk about me to anyone ever again. So if you are dealing with domestic violence, like Patti said, be very careful. So we're going to plug Hope's Door. If you are in a situation, someone you care about, a friend, a family, someone you don't even have to like all that much, refer them to Hope's Door or another skilled domestic violence provider for safety.
All right, let's talk about that hospital scene. I know anybody in here who has experienced domestic violence or knows somebody and has some sort of intimate knowledge of it was probably shocked by the hospital scene when Ryle is holding the baby and Lily says, I want a divorce. It seemed to be very amicable. It seemed to be very friendly. We can assume from that scene that custody was probably easily agreed upon and everybody went on their merry way. So,
Stacey, this is yours.
once again, is that real life?
The short favorite answer tonight is no. And I think we covered it already, but one of the most dangerous times for a victim is when they are leaving or telling their abuser that they're leaving. So I think when we saw the movie, we saw it a couple days ago, and we saw the scene that they had where she tells Ryle as he's holding her newborn child that I want a divorce. I think like every part of us was like horrified. That is like nothing you would ever counsel or advise a client to do. And because it's the most dangerous time, at our legal center, anytime a client is going to file for an order of protection or custody or divorce, we always do safety planning. We do safety planning before we write the petition, before we talk about what the case is going to look like and what could happen. We safety plan. And we safety plan around the timing when those papers are going to be served, because that is going to signify to an abuser that they are losing control, and that is the most dangerous time for a victim. So just to give you an example of the things that we will talk about with a client, where are you going to be when he's served with the divorce papers? Who are you going to be with? Does he know where you'll be? And we'll go over that, and they have a plan. Then when they have to go to court, to the details, who are you going with? Where are you going to park? When we're in the courtroom, we will purposely stand between the client and the abuser, because our clients have told us one look from them and they will know what that means, and they will be intimidated and they don't know if they could go through with it. So the safety planning piece of whenever there is a legal action to end the relationship, for custody, safety planning is paramount, the most important thing. And custody arrangements and agreements very often are very, very difficult. It's certainly where it's suggested she's going to have a new relationship with someone, it's not going to be like this happy, Ryle has her on the weekends and then she's with Atlas and Lily during the week. Not in my experience. I've never seen that. They're not going to, Ryle and abusers that we've seen, they don't agree to anything. They won't agree if their attorney suggests it. They won't agree if the judge suggests it. They won't agree, because that will be giving up control. And I did want to comment on the statement that Lily made when she was in the hospital, where she said, I want a divorce. And I know for me, and what a lot of clients come into our office and tell us, is that I want to divorce him, but he said he never will let me do that. So I think there's this misconception out there that you need that both parties to agree, or that your abuser or your spouse has to give you a divorce, like it's up to them. In New York, we have no fault divorce, which means that a divorce can proceed even if the other party refuses to cooperate. Will it be lengthy? Will it be drawn out? Yes. But ultimately, even if that party doesn't agree, there will be the trial and the divorce will be finalized.
Okay, so no cuddling with the soon-to-be ex and baby in the hospital.
No.
I'm horrified, just horrified.
All right, we're going to end with the beginning, with the title. It ends with us, which signifies the systemic cycle of abuse from generation to generation. So I have 2 questions based on that, and you can answer either one. The first is, how common is it for children who witness domestic violence in their homes to grow up and repeat the cycle in some way? Either they become a victim themselves or they become an abuser. Choice B, what does witnessing domestic violence do to a child's emotional and mental well-being as a child and as an adult?
Okay, I'll hit it off. Let's think about it this way, right? We all know that who the the children spend time with in their formative years lays a foundation for socialization. It signifies to them how they're going to play out their roles in society and relationships, right? That's not hard to understand. DV is no exception. If they're witnessing this, it's going into their formative years. They're understanding maybe that this is how it's supposed to work. And with 15 million children living in homes where DV has happened, we can't ignore the ramifications of these effects. Studies have shown that children who witness it are at a greater risk for experiencing abuse or being an abuser. That's just the bottom line. It's common sense.
CarlLa?
There's not much more to add except this.
It's not a death sentence most of the time. So it's not a negative for the rest of your life. Yeah, there are impacts on all the children who come to us, but there are interventions. Hope's Door provides interventions. Pace Women's Justice Center is in the house. They provide interventions. My sister's place, mental health providers. There are people who are available to make those interventions so that it could end with us as well. Pardon?
Yes.
So is the healthy parent.
And the healthy parent, thank you.
Before I ask for everybody's final thoughts, if you have questions for any of the panelists up here, I believe that the Bedford Playhouse is keeping the bar open late for us, per our request.
Gosh, those are our new best friends.
So you can go upstairs, grab a drink, ask a question. They're not intimidating or abusive in any way, so they're happy to chat. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank you guys, because I think it's your
Well, that's very gratifying to hear.
Just
Thank you.
in case somebody didn't hear what she said, she was thanking Hope's Door for all of the amazing work they do, and also this panel for talking about the inaccuracies in the movie and helping people really understand reality versus, it's not even Hollywood, it's really the story, because the book is very similar. So I hesitate to say reality versus Hollywood here. I think it's reality versus
Fiction.
fiction. Yeah, the story.
That's what you said in your first paragraph.
Okay, quick final thoughts before everybody goes to get a drink.
If you want to help someone, a friend, a family member, to really just have patience, avoid judgment. It's hard, it's not easy, nature. Nurture some confidentiality in them. You can even gather information for them and some resources for that time when they might open up. You can prepare for them, sort of be that clearinghouse of information going forward.
Home is where you should feel safe and protected. Hope's Door is who you call if you're not. So on the way out this evening, please take our outreach material with our hotline number on it. Take one, if not for yourself, for someone who isn't here. I know how hard it was for you to share what you had to share. But abuse, all the kind of gender-based, interpersonal violence, all of it thrives in darkness. All of it. And the shame that victims feel, their embarrassment, their loss of sense of self, is all just part of the tactic. And it's not impossible, but much more difficult to handle with all the isolation that Patti talked about. You've been stripped away from everyone. Everyone's been stripped away from you, but you're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone. We are here to help. Please take our hotline number and call for yourself or for someone who can't.
Stacey, any final
I'm
words?
not following that. And yes, there are places that you're not alone, and Hope Store is here and all the other wonderful organizations that were mentioned tonight. So just spread the word, because so many people don't know that we're here.
And I think we should close by thanking all the people here, who came to listen to us, but also in this audience are people who volunteer at Hope Store, who donate to Hope Store, who serve on our fundraising committee. Members of our board are here, president, vice president, treasurer. We could not get this done. Donors. Danced with me at our last gala. Thank you very much. So you're not alone. Please let us hear from you if we can be of further help.
Thank you, everybody.